So welcome to today's webinar, focusing on carbon-based PtX production. I'm Nora, I'm the head of the service department of HK Uruguay, the Uruguayan German Chamber of Industry and Commerce. And I'm very delighted to guide you through this 1.5 hour webinar. As previously announced, and as you noticed, this webinar will be held in English. This webinar is primarily organized by the GIZ, the German Agency for International Cooperation, and supported by us, the HK Uruguay. It is conducted within the framework of the International Hydrogen Ramp-Up Program, short H2Up, which is funded by the German Federal Ministry of Economic Affairs and Climate Action. This initiative aims to promote projects in their initial phases of hydrogen projects and to foster the markets worldwide. On behalf of GIZ and HK Uruguay, we extend our gratitude to all of the speakers who are with us today, and also to the audience that is connecting here in the region, in Latin America, and also around the world. So we have several speakers today during this webinar. Let's have a quick look at the contents that we will cover. I will just share my screen 1 second. So I hope you can see it. First of all, we will have a short look at the H2Up program, followed by a presentation about sustainable carbon sources. After that, we get insights into real-life examples of carbon-based PtX production, thanks to the presentation of a Chilean case by INERATEC and a Brazilian case by MELE Biogas. And then after that, we still have some time left in the end to discuss and to make some questions. So I would ask you or motivate you to use the button that you find in the bar below, where it says question and answers, or in your language that you chose to put Zoom in. So I will stop sharing, and I do not want to lose more time. So I would like to invite Stefan Poth to activate his microphone. He supports the development of green hydrogen and PtX markets, especially in countries classified as developing and emerging countries. And as part of the H2Up program, he has been active in international cooperation for already before H2Up, but with working with GIZ and the European Commission. So I'm very happy to have you here, Stefan, and we're happy to get a resume of the H2Up program.
Yes, good day, everybody, and welcome to today's webinar also from my side. Thank you very much, AHK Uruguay, for organizing the event, and Nora for the kind introduction. And thank you also for allowing me to give some remarks. PTX offers countries a tremendous potential for climate protection. A statement I recently read, which is featured prominently on the International PTX Hub's website. By the way, Jan Hendrik from this very hub will kick off today's presentations by giving us some insights into sustainable carbon sources and EU requirements after my brief introduction. So this tremendous potential, a statement that sounds that simple, and a statement whose implications can nevertheless be so complex, and a statement whose implementation requires the following in particularly. So entrepreneurial spirit, expertise, and willingness to join forces with a larger group, including private sector, public sector, and civil society. H2Up, short for the International Hydrogen Ramp-Up Program, and as Nora already mentioned, commissioned by the German Federal Ministry for Economic Affairs and Climate Action, aims to realize these PtX potentials. It is jointly implemented by the network of German chambers of commerce abroad, and it supports the market ramp up of green hydrogen and PowerTX applications in close cooperation with the private sector, because we believe that the private sector's role at this early stage in the market's development and the way projects are developed are crucial for leveraging the earlier mentioned PtX potentials. So, which brings me to today's focus and reminds me that I should not waste too much time on my own remarks and give the floor to Jan-Hendrik and representatives of INERATEC, MELE and NIRAS. Those companies do not shy away from the challenges of the very young PtX market. So a big thank you to all partners who realize cooperation projects with us, creating business opportunities that are also building blocks for the global energy transition. So we hugely value these partnerships. And we also seek to share the knowledge that is developed as part of these cooperation projects. So today's webinar on carbon-based PtX production will also share findings on questions such as sustainability requirements and carbon availability. And I'm looking forward to insights from projects in Brazil and Chile. So without further ado, thank you all for joining today's webinar and giving the floor back to Nora and Jan-Hendrik. Thank you very much.
Perfect. Well, just let me tell you, thank you very much, Stefan, for this on-point summary of H2Up. And now we will continue with the speakers. Let me shortly introduce you also to our next speaker. His name is Jan-Hendrik Scheil. At the International PTX Hub, Jan follows and engages in global and European processes on hydrogen and PTX regulatory frameworks, especially on the topic of certification and sustainability. Before he joined the PtX Hub, he worked in sustainability consulting as a project manager, where he advised international clients on these topics. So please, if you do not have it already turned on, you can now turn your microphone and start your presentation. Thank you, Jan.
Hi everyone, and thank you, Nora and Stefan. I hope you see my presentation already. Yes, I'm Jan, working for the PtX Hub, also a GIZ project, actually many projects, and also closely collaborating, of course, with H2Up. What I want to do today is to give a general overview. First, on EU regulation on carbon sources. Then I would like to go into some country analysis we're doing and we have done. And in the end, discuss with you a little bit on, I would say, possible dimensions of sustainable carbon sources. So let's start with the regulation. We are all aware of the EU delegated acts. Now, as they're implemented, they're officially called Commission Delegated Regulations. And in essence, they explain or describe when is hydrogen or RFNBOs, renewable fuels of non-biological origin, when are these products actually renewable, so that they can count towards quotas and policy targets being brought into the European market. And these delegated acts describe two aspects. So two main aspects we learn from them. It's just the description or the definition, when is electricity actually renewable? May sound easy, but can be a little bit more complicated. This is the first part. And the second part is how to calculate the GHG emissions of the final product, of the hydrogen, of the renewable fuel of non-biological origin. Both these aspects are really important to be compliant, let's say, with the regulation. And the last point, the GHG emission calculation, this is actually very, very important for our topic today, for the carbon sources. So what you see here is the formula of how to calculate these emissions. It may look a bit intimidating, but this has been, in essence, not in the details, but in essence, around for 10 plus years in the European framework of certification and GHG calculation of biofuels as well. The key point, without going into the formula, the key point you see here on the right, which is that you have to have for your final product emission saving 70% compared to a fossil fuel comparator, which you see here, which leaves you with a little bit of math and conversion to this threshold, GHG threshold for hydrogen or respectively RFNBOs, renewable fuels of non-biological origin. When you look now, how do you calculate this? Here I have a nice representation of a PtX supply chain. And what you actually need to do is go step by step through the supply chain and calculate the emission. The E is always emissions. P, for example, here is processing emissions, transport and distribution emissions, again, processing. And the way it works, you usually go step by step through the supply chain, add the emissions, and in the end, you have a final value. Very much simplified, of course, but this is how it works. Now, the interesting part is, what does it mean for the carbon sources? So on carbon sources, this regulation is less about eligibility or non-eligibility of specific carbon sources. It has another logic, so to say. It is really important to look at this possible deduction you can receive from your carbon source. And I go back now. Deduction means that, for example, in this here, this formula element, emissions from existing use, it's called, you can see here a minus. And in order to get this minus, you have to comply in some sense to certain CO2 pathways. Why is this so important? Because getting the minus there for your whole GHG calculation of your final product can be, doesn't have to be, but can be very, very important, so that you actually are able to reach the 70% thresholds. Here I have wrote down these 5 pathways of when could you get this deduction for your carbon source. So when are you allowed to get this minus? I call this one, let's say, the fossil pathway. Here we have direct air capture. Here we have biomass. Here we have combustion of already RFNBOs. And here we have geological sources. So let's dive a little bit deeper on these specific aspects. What are the main points here? So with fossil, you have kind of extent of eligibility, I would call it, as fossil sources can only account for this deduction until 2040. What is also important to check here for these activities listed under this annex. There are certain activities, I put here some examples in the brackets afterwards. Only these activities could potentially count as a deduction. And it is also important to check to see what counts, and this is the quote, an effective carbon pricing mechanism, because these fossil carbon sources need to be also considered under this effective carbon pricing mechanism. The European Commission has actually updated their Q&A on these delegated acts just, I think, over the weekend, or at least I saw it this Monday. And there's a more more detailed explanation of what an effective carbon pricing mechanism actually is. So worth looking into that as well. I'll go on for now with the biosources. For the biomass, there are already in the RED2, the Renewable Energy Directive, certain sustainability criteria for biomass. These are actually important also for the CO2 from the biomass, as this biomass where the CO2 comes from needs to adhere to these sustainability criteria. You find these in, I think it's Article 29 of the RED2, and it's basically about land use and land use change, and also to some extent about GHG emissions. So also worth looking into that. With biomass, it's also crucial to check whether your output fuel or your output product is actually only an RFNBO, or from a regulatory perspective, maybe even a mix of RFNBO and biofuel. This could happen if also the energy content of this biomass goes into the final fuel. So if a certain energy content comes from the biomass and of course the renewable electricity from the renewable hydrogen, then you might actually produce a mix of an RFNBO and a biofuel. I mean, this is not necessarily bad, but I think this is something worth considering and worth looking into and checking. Last but not least, two more general aspects that I think are really interesting and important is to check for deliberate CO2 production. The Commission in this regulation is, of course, looking to avoid any more CO2. So any process where CO2 was deliberately produced should also not be involved here. I mean, now we can get in a little bit of a discussion, what is deliberate, what is not. I leave it like this right now, but this is at least the wording. We can discuss about that for sure, I guess. The last point is to check for double counting. This, I think, also makes sense, that you don't get an emission credit or this deduction that I mentioned twice. So for example, if you use the CO2 from an ethanol plant and the ethanol producer is also doing a GHG calculation and captures the carbon, and you, in theory, she or he could also use this deduction, this capturing, as beneficial for the ethanol. But you buying the CO2 then for your PTX process can, of course, not count it twice. So this would be one example for double counting, which, I mean, it makes sense, should be avoided. So this was a quick overview. Now I want to present some country analysis that we are doing, or have been doing. So I start with an introductory briefing. This briefing we published beginning of this year. It's basically, we also have this to 5 other topics, but it's basically, it should explain shortly. We said like 6 pages max. Why is this carbon source topic even relevant in the context of Power-to-X? I think in our webinar here today with all these great experts in the room or in the virtual room, we don't need this, but I think maybe this is nice to have. Namibia, I will show another slide on that. In South Africa, for example, we looked at CO2 also from a demand and supply perspective with numbers and actual data here included, also quite interesting. In Argentina, together with Decima, we created an interactive map, you could say so, on carbon sources available and which kind of carbon sources are available in Argentina. But I also agree with what Stefan said at the beginning. I think we can learn the most actually directly working with companies like we do in H2Up. So already I can say I'm very curious to hear the perspectives from INERATEC and the MELE project. On Namibia, I think this is a kind of course, a special one, but also really interesting example. Dealing with encroached biomass, which you can see here on the picture on the right, which as far as I understand is also from an ecological point of view, a problem or an issue. And using this biomass in the form of pellets can actually be used, and this is the example made in the study, in a so-called hybrid biomass PTX process. And this way, this carbon can first of all be utilized, and also the usage of the carbon, so the potential efficiency by which you can use this carbon in this biomass can even be enhanced. And I think this is a kind of very, very interesting example where you might even have some co-benefits of utilizing CO2 sources. Okay, summing this a bit up, the last point I called dimension of sustainable carbon sources. And as an introduction to this, I have a graphic here from our PTX Hub EESG framework, where we describe basic considerations of what constitutes actually sustainable Power-to-X. We have 16 dimensions in there, 16 topics, And of course, carbon is one of them. When you look now at this graphic here, you might see, or you might argue, okay, it's kind of general, but I think it gives us a nice, let's say, nice categories to think in. For example, the closed carbon cycle. I think this is something that we should strive for, and we would like to achieve, at least in the future. The availability and scalability of carbon sources. So actually, I think the more I think about it, maybe these are even 2 points, you know, they might be different, I guess, but very, very important. And same as technology maturity and costs, I guess we'll hear later more on that, but very much determining also whole PtX projects. Sustainability requirements of the CO2 source, of the carbon source, also very important, looking a little bit beyond the carbon itself, I would say. So as a little exercise, I tried in the end to mention some dimensions here. And when I thought about this, I actually started to group these. And then I started to put color themes on them. Then I thought, maybe I should rank them or prioritize them. But in the end, as you see, I did it like this because I found this really difficult task. And I think this already demonstrates that this topic includes a lot of dimensions. All of them are relevant. And maybe we have some opinions and some thoughts here about how to rank them, how to prioritize them. What I put down here is I just go through them right now, is a product carbon footprint. This I explained already in the beginning. So of course, your final product, your PtX product has a product carbon footprint, which is relevant. And the CO2, of course, plays a role in it, simply put. Regulation, I covered this with the example of the EU, is of course also something you need to keep in mind. Closed carbon cycle, as I said, something really, especially looking into the future, worth achieving. And system sustainability, here I don't know whether I put it rightly. Maybe there are better words for that. But what I mean is to see whether the carbon source and the capturing of the carbon source and all that is from a broader system perspective actually sustainable. So I think here the Namibia example is an interesting example because, as I said, you see some co-benefits of capturing this carbon, at least here from a biodiversity or ecological perspective even. You could here discuss about potentially the energy usage or the energy use or the energy source for capturing, transportation, biodiversity, all these aspects that are not about the carbon itself, but about the sustainability of the whole system, let's say. Maybe we have some better words for that, but this is what I came up with. Availability is super important. The more I get into this topic and the more experts I hear on that, the more I think this is relevant. Costs, kind of straightforward, I guess, as important. Technology maturity, of course, very, very important. And last but not least, I put here the national and regional context. Of course, something where we as GIZ are especially well equipped to support in. But I think you see this whole range of dimensions already shows that there's still a lot of work to do. And with H2Up, with the studies I showed, with the inputs we will hear now from the following speakers, I think we are on a good track, but let's keep on working on that and let's move forward. So yeah, this was my short general introduction. Thank you very much. And yeah, this is it.
Thank you very much, Jan. Very well structured and very interesting presentation. For now, I saw that there was a question. Actually, now there are two from Thomas Roos. Maybe I can do one because I think it's a quick one to answer. He asked, when will the full SA study, I think he means South African study, be available, not just the executive summary?
Yes, I can quickly answer those two questions. So with the South Africa study, I need to double check. On our website, ptxhub.org, we have a knowledge base. There, all of our products, also the ones I mentioned and I showed, are available. There is the executive summary. Yes, I think there should be also the full paper. I can check that, and you can reach out to me directly if you don't find it or if we don't find it. But yeah.
Perfect.
And maybe I can also get to the second questions already. The deadline, I said 2040. Yes, there's a bit of distinguishment between a 2040 deadline and a 2036 deadline. The 2040 deadline is the more general. But I advise you again to look at the question and answers of the European Commission. And also we as the PTX have also on our knowledge base posted an FAQ on these delegated acts. And I think there are there are more and more questions coming in. Maybe I stop here.
Yes.
Nora, to see how we handle that best.
Perfect. Yeah. In the end, I remember everyone that in the end we have still some minutes for answering questions. We have to see how many questions get in. If there's like 50 of them, we have to see if the time is enough. But maybe Jan, you could remember that those questions were for you, and then in the end we can see if we answer them. Yes.
Sure.
And maybe for the future, I would ask you to just write the name of the expert or the person that is presenting for everyone who's doing questions, so we can later see for which person was meant this question. Yes, that would be helpful. Well, thank you again very much, Jan, for the presentation and for answering already quickly some questions. Now we continue with Samantha Michaud, who is Business Development Manager at INERATEC, coordinating a PPP project within H2Up, aiming at assessing the technical and economic feasibility of establishing an e-fuel plant in Chile. At INERATEC, she supports and works closely with the management to jointly develop roadmaps for lead generation and commercialization of e-fuels. Relying on her long experience working with innovative companies, she works actively in identifying business opportunities and enabling the market ramp up of e-fuels. So everything will be about e-fuels now. Thank you, Samantha. The stage is yours.
Thank you very much. Yes, so we analyzed Chile as a potential sweet spot for the establishment of an e-fuel economy. Maybe before starting, I would like just to say some words about INERATEC for the ones who do not know us. So we started 2016. We are based in the south of Germany and growing very rapidly, reaching almost 130 people now, and contributing to the next era mobility. We made our vision to decarbonate hard to abate sectors such as aviation, maritime, but as well long-haul road transport by providing a sustainable solution and e-fuels. How we do that? We combine renewable electricity to produce actually the hydrogen, combined with CO2. Technically, we can use any kind of CO2 source, but on the regulation aspect, as we just saw, we favorized at the moment the biogenic sources to produce the synthetic fuels. From the perspective of the value chain, so we mainly focus on the synthesis, turning the CO2 and the green hydrogen into syngas, relying on patented process of reverse water gas shift, and then going through a Fischer-Tropsch process, we generate the synthetic fuels and chemicals that can be used in the transport, but also in the chemical or cosmetic industry. From our business model, so we are primarily a technology provider, so developing those chemical plants for Power-to-X. Our technology is patented, so developed by ourselves. And we are also establishing ourselves as a e-fuels producers and suppliers. And this is also why we are looking for interesting sweet spots to establish power-to-liquid plants. From our strategy, we go for we focus very strong on upscaling the strategy. As you can see, we are now building one of our first commercial plant of 10 megawatt, which is located in Frankfurt. The commissioning will be starting next month, and already preparing the world scale with a 100 megawatt concept, which is the one that we are targeting, for example, also in Chile. Here you can see a nice picture from our plant being built in Frankfurt. This is the very first commercial plant globally that will be producing exclusively synthetic fuels. So now I'm going to present you the results of our study that we have performed. The project started last year under the H2Up program. So we got an investment, a co-funding from the GIZ for a total budget of 400,000 euros. The target was to assess the technical and the economic feasibility of a 50,000 ton yearly production of e-fuels in Chile. So the objective were first to identify some potential sites where we can establish a e-fuel production. We have also developed a first design of this 50,000 ton plant. I will show you later on also a nice visualization of it. But it was also about building up the value chain in Chile and also mapping the different local stakeholders that we would like to partner with. So upstream, but also downstream. And assess the techno-economic evaluation of such a plant. So on the site profiling, before I start, I would like just to mention that I'm going to present a lot of data here that have been deeply researched, and we believe them to be reliable. But they, of course, the figures can change because some of them are relying on forecast and assumptions. When it comes to assess the feasibility of establishing an e-fuel plant, you have to consider different criteria. So first of all, that's what we did, is that we started also to identify the different local resources. So where are the feedstock located? So the CO2, the water, etc. Then we analyze different sites. We have been setting up a ranking of high potential sites. I'm going to present you some of them later on. We also focus on the permitting process, which is a very important topic when it comes to build a chemical plant. And as I said, we analyze also the local stakeholders, so upstream and downstream the value chain, regarding the potential off-takers for e-fuels, but also the partner we would like to cooperate with for the manufacturing of the plants, etc. So the mandatory criteria to consider when you select a site for e-fuel production are the following. So first, is the land buildable? So you need to check if this is an industrial land, that you might also receive the permit to build a chemical plant on it. Targeting a 50,000 ton production, we need at least 170 ton yearly CO2 as feedstock. So we were looking for those sources, providing the volume we need. The same approach for the hydrogen. So for this production capacity, we need 23,000 ton yearly green hydrogen. We were also trying to find also the sources not at proximity of potential sites, because doesn't make any sense if you have to transport all your feedstock to produce your e-fuel. So by being modular, the technology of INERATEC allows us to establish the plant actually where at proximity of the feedstock sources. We were assessing also the different water sources in Chile. I mean, water is a very important resource when it comes to produce hydrogen. Then we analyze also the electrical system and the electrical market in Chile, so to better understand how it works. But from the system part, also to assess if the grid is adapted for high capacity of power generation. We were looking also for syngas sources, because we can also consider some syngas sources as a feedstock for the production of e-fuels. And last but not least, the transport network. So how the site can be connected to the customers or to the transport network. From the CO2 source, from the CO2 perspective, we have so analyzed the CO2 sources with the capacity I mentioned before, and we realized that it's fragmented this way, that you have industrial CO2 source in the north, more in the north of the country, coming mainly from the mining industry. While in the center, it's a part where you find a lot of biogenic CO2 coming from the pulp and paper industry, which is mainly located in the in the center of the country. And in the south, you have less CO2 source, also mainly industrial from some companies. Here you can see some main big CO2 emitters in Chile from the pulp and paper industry, which are producing a lot of or emitting a lot of CO2, but also from thermoelectric power plants. So in Chile, a lot of thermoelectric power plants are located burning biomass to generate electricity. Also, some from the cement industry are a big emitter in the country. What is important to know at this stage is that there is a high interest in Chile to commercialize the CO2. So the emitter are looking for ways to decarbonize, etc. But the technology to extract and also to clean up the CO2 to make it a valuable feedstock is not in place yet. So we have been discussing with a lot of companies, and the willingness is there, and they are actually looking for interesting technology to install them and extract the CO2 from their production processes. From the hydrogen perspective, we were looking mainly of the project which are at a later development stage. So the one who have already some permits granted, who have already the stage of engineering achieved to start with the commercial operation by 2026. As you can see, they are those are the 4 main projects that we have identified, because those are also the ones who can deliver the amount of hydrogen that we need for the production of 50,000 ton e-fuels. So we have 3 in the north, mainly using solar energy, from solar parks, and one in the south where the wind energy is more in focus. From the electricity market part, so the electricity grid is mainly shared in three main electric systems. So we have the main electric system, which is the national electric one, which also is provide the highest electricity power, well connected from the north until the mid of the country. And then you have two medium system, which are mainly in the south and the medium south of the country. What is important here to see is that because of so the grids here in the south of the country, the substation have lower capacity, which makes also the establishment of high production for e-fuels more challenging, of course. But this is also at the stage to change. So there are some projects of increasing the capacity of the existing substation, which are ongoing right now. Water. So as you might know, water is a scarce resource also in Chile. The reason why there are many desalination plants in the country, also mainly in the north because of the mining industry. Of course, this is a good opportunity to get then the necessary water to produce the hydrogen. This is also the reason why you found the most advanced hydrogen project, green hydrogen project, also located also in the north, combining the availability of solar power and the water coming from the desalination plant. From the syngas perspective, actually there are no proper syngas produced in Chile yet, because the technology for it is not installed. But we were looking for potential biogenic CO2 emitters who could generate a biogenic syngas as we need for the production of e-fuels if they install the technology needed for that. So the plants are mainly located in the center of the country. This is also the greenest side of the country where you mainly find the biogenic source, and the biomass come from the pulp and paper industries. So how we proceed? So considering the criteria I mentioned before, we identified in total 16 potential zones in the country. And then we made a strict ranking of it by applying the criteria targeted for a 50,000 ton e-fuels production, and finally identify 10 potential sites in Chile which present a high potential for the establishment of an e-fuel production. I'm not going to present all of them, so I decided to choose 4 of them, 2 in the north, 1 in the center, and 1 in the south, to present it to you. So the very first is in the north of the country, in La Negra, in Antofagasta, which is a region well established because it's next to an industrial zone. You have the mining industry also at proximity, providing some industrial CO2. You have the access to water because there are some desalination plants at proximity. There is a well-developed hydrogen project at this stage of 100 megawatt capacity. And the substation next to the site are also already further developed, guaranteeing a capacity, a tension of 220 kilowatt. The second site is in the center next to Santiago de Chile. Here, quite interesting because you have several CO2 biogenic sources at proximity, also one industrial. At this stage, there is no hydrogen project developed for the capacity targeted, but many projects are in the pipeline. So maybe in the next year we could see the creation of some project in this area. Another one site is in the region of Bio, which is one of the greenest regions of Chile. Also very much interesting because a lot of CO2, biogenic CO2 source at proximity. Here, as I mentioned before, you can see that the substation capacity is lower than in the north. So that's what I showed you before on the sites belonging to the medium network of electricity with a lower capacity. At this stage, no project for green hydrogen for the expected capacity. What we also learned here is that talking to some CO2 emitters of the region who are looking for selling their CO2, but as you know, for the e-fuel production, we need also the hydrogen. We were talking to them and say, okay, what about establishing a project of green hydrogen next to it? Don't you need green hydrogen for your own processes? And they explained to me that actually at the moment, it is not really interesting for them to produce hydrogen in this region, although there is a lot of water, because the electricity price, and this is very interesting, the electricity price in Chile is more expensive during the night than during the day. This means that this would increase the price, the production price for hydrogen if they would produce the whole day. And at the moment, they generate the electricity directly from burning the biomass, and they can sell it directly to the grid. So they generate higher income by selling directly the electricity to the grid instead of using it to produce hydrogen. So this is also an interesting discovery we made, which is, yeah. Let's see if things are changing this way, and if hydrogen hubs will be establishing in the country, in the center of the country. And the last site is in Cabo Negro, so it's in the region of Magallanes. Here, as you can see, a lot of capacity for the production of hydrogen because of the wind power, but very low CO2 sources, and also the electrical connection to substation is just inexistent. So this is one of the challenge in the south, is that because you have basically no grid. If your windmill is not turning, the electricity is not being produced, and you cannot feed it in the grid. So if you want to establish a e-fuel plant over there, you will have also to build up the grid around it. The Chilean electricity market. So as I said before, the price is different between the day and the night, and also in keeping of the location in the country, the price is also fluctuating. So in the north, you have a high power, renewable power capacity, which is fed into the grid. But because the connection are better in the north and in the center of the country, you can see here during the day you have a very low price of electricity, while in the night it's higher. But a difference here, for example, the gray curve that you can see here, this is the curve of Puerto Montt in the south of the country. And why is it still during the day also very expensive? Is because of the low capacity of the grid, or because there is basically no grid. The electricity cannot be, the electricity cannot be fed, cannot access the south of the country, and this way it's increased the price, and they have actually to combine with other electricity generation, like a diesel generator or something like this. So the permitting process is something also very complex and long-lasting in Chile. I mean, we know it in all countries as well. It's a very long-lasting process. But as you can see, so sometimes it can take a very long time until you can start with building your plants. So the first phase can last between 6 and 12 months until you get the environmental permit, which is a very big milestone in the process. From the environmental permit until plant construction, it can last until 2 years. And then again, a year up to the final activities. There are 4 main principal institutions which are playing a big role when it comes to the permitting process. So we have on one side the Environmental Assessment Service, which verifies and approves the environmental impacts of your study or of your plant. Then you have the Superintendency of Electricity and Fuels, which verify the compliance to regulation and standards. This is also the institution which gives also the subcontract to third-party auditing body to audit also the project. Then you have the municipality, which provides you the building permits, and then the National Energy Commission and National Electric Coordinator, who conducts studies and provides also the grant permits for the connection to the electrical system. So here, so this is the design we have developed for visualizing a 50,000 ton e-fuel production. So as you can see, the main block are actually the synthesis. So this is the synthesis where the e-fuels are being produced. Here you have the electrolysis. This part of the plant is mainly dedicated to the cooling water system, the wastewater treatment. You have the power plant at proximity, and the upgrading of the product is taking place on the left side next to the fuel storage or the tank storage where we store the products. And this is also where you have we forecast that the price will be decreasing up to 2030 for less than 2 euros a liter. So we have been also analyzing the market in Chile. Chile is definitely a diesel country, so the diesel market is huge, being led by COPEC, which owns 60% of the market. Then you have also other distributor like Enex, Esmax, and the others, but COPEC being the most of it. And as you can see clearly on this graph, the diesel distribution is the highest. Jet fuel is also being distributed, but at the moment still less than the diesel one. And from the SAF, from the jet fuel perspective, so there are 3 main airlines in Chile, which are the main off-takers of jet fuels. You have LATAM with 50%, Scar Airlines with 15%, and then JetSmart with 10%, and other international operators they offtake 25% of the total consumption. And this is all for Chile. So if you have any question.
Thank you very much, Samantha. I think this was a very insightful presentation, really an impressive project, and the whole investigation process that you went through. So I think you gave us a lot of very helpful practical information. Thank you a lot. And this is also reflected by the questions, especially by one very active person that is making a lot of questions. I would suggest to maybe respond one and leave the rest for later. I don't know if you also see the questions, Samantha, in the
Yes, I just don't know which one are, so they were the one.
All those from Thomas Roos, all the.
Okay, so you need permitting not only for the plant, but for the significantly larger land area for the solar and wind renewable production, surely. Yes, this is correct, but this is not this is not our part. That's why we work with partners in Chile, and that's what I said at the beginning. We mainly focus on the synthesis and partnering with companies who owns the power parks and the production of hydrogen. So we buy actually the hydrogen. We do not install and produce the hydrogen ourselves. And the same for the CO2. We buy it from the emitters. So do the 4 hydrogen plants in Chile not already have contracts to supply H2 to off-taker? Well, I suppose so, but then you have to ask them. I don't know about their supply contract. Surely the additionality principle requires you cannot use renewable electricity already being supplied to the grid. Well, yeah. If you want to export the fuels to Europe, of course, you have to apply the additionality criteria from the Delegated Act. If you supply the fuels in the country, you don't have to apply for it. Ideally, is better to be directly connected to the power plant, because also this decrease the price for the electricity, because if you take the electricity from the grid, you have your total marginal cost of electricity are composed by the cost of you have to buy a PPA. There are some grid costs. You have the electricity price, and then you have another price for different grid services. So ideally, it's always better to have a direct connection, indeed.
Perfect. Samantha, maybe, sorry to interrupt you, maybe we stop here to let the others present, and then in the end we see if we can still answer all questions, or if not, maybe we could offer to come back to those people and write them a short mail or something. But we will see later. Yes, I just want to yes, offer the time also to the next presentation, if that's fine for you.
Yes, of course.
Thank you very
much. I can answer the question also directly in the chat, and then
that's also an option. Yes, perfect. Because there are really several, also from Cristian Fuentes and Martín Scarone. All those are questions for you, so have fun answering them. Thank you very much, Samantha. So we continue with our now second real-life study, second and last real-life study we want to show today. I will shortly present the 2 speakers, because they will they have the project together, so they will both share the presentation. First, Helmut Tündermann will speak. He's currently head of project development and sales at MELE Biogas. He has around 20 years of experience in biogas and biomethane production, and was involved in the development and implementation of national and international projects, as for example in Dubai, in Kazakhstan, in Vietnam, and more. Also in Brazil, he's active for almost 10 years now, carrying out different projects, and among them the construction of a biogas model plant, introducing a substrate management for the biogenic hydrogen production, and the development of the Greenfields Paraná project. But well, now he will himself tell us a little bit more about his current projects. Well, maybe I leave it there, and then after I will present Felipe to not mix the speakers. So thank you, Helmut, for being here, and I will now present your presentation, and you tell me when to switch slides, please.
Okay. Yeah, thank you very much for introduction, Nora, and good day to all. Yes, I would like to present to you some key figures of our hydrogen derivative project in Brazil. And you can go to the third slide. Nora, you can go to the third slide.
This one?
Yeah, okay. Now, before. Okay. One before. Thank you very much. So, yes, why we are looking for carbon sources, we identified the western part of the federal state of Paraná in Brazil. We like to produce from organic material biogas to produce hydrogen. This region in the western part of Paraná is has a very huge production of animals and slaughtering. And so it was combined also with a lot of environmental problems, which are caused by the production, contaminating soil and water, and emitting also methane in the air. So it's a big problem, but also a good possibility to produce biogas from carbon sources. So we start to motivate local producers and also the government of Paraná, of the state of Paraná, to participate in this project. And so we are commencing some initiatives from the government of Paraná, like rural sanitation, also thinking about production of biofertilizers from the digestate state of the biogas plants, looking for certifications, and also promoting the production of green protein from the animals. Next, please. So, which territory is involved with these activities? You are looking here, the western part of Paraná. It's near the border to Paraguay. And it is a region of the city of Toledo and some other cities like Nova Santa Rosa and so on. Together, 18 cities are involved in this project, and we are covering a territory of 4,700 square kilometers. Our aim is to construct more than 40 biogas plants, and then in the second stage to produce hydrogen by reforming and by reforming the biomass and looking for a production of a derivative at least. So we are producing with this 40 plants about 50,000 cubic meter biogas per hour. That means by a content of nearly 60% methane, at least 30,000 cubic meter per hour biomethane, which will be produced at the central point of the production, and all these biogas plants will be connected by pipelines, and we are pumping the biogas directly to the production point. So in the moment we are founding 4 cooperatives, which are partners from the producers. More than 2,500 producers are involved in this project, and they are supplying more than 12 million cubic meters of slurry and manure, which comes to the biogas plants, and we will produce the biogas from that. Additionally, we are planning to produce green energy from a photovoltaic plant and from a wind park. Together with that, 400 megawatt will be connected also to the production area, and we will produce by electrolyzers green hydrogen, which comes together with the biogenic hydrogen from the biomethane, and at least we will produce hydrogen derivative, which can be green methanol, or which can be also biosyncrude. To this, Felipe von Nieras will present a little bit more later. Next. So, what is the base of the sustainability of our activities? So you can see here we have an environmental production, at least of biofuels or biofertilizers and green protein. At least more than 6,000 families, which belongs to the producers, are involved in this, and they have a change to more sustainable production of animals, and looking for possibilities of treatment of the residues from the animal production, like slurry and manure. And this becomes a new situation also for the families, and they have the chance to make the production more sustainable. So you can see here the estimated production of this process. We are producing biosyncrude as possible biosyncrude production of 200 million liters per year, or 350,000 tons a year of green methanol, which will be used later on in the shipping center, or to produce biofuels, produce SAF, and a lot of more. So about that, in the production of biogas, we are producing from digestate 300,000 tons a year of natural organic fertilizer, which would be bring out on the land, on the farmland. And so the producers can change the use from mineral fertilizers to natural fertilizers, and bring also a better sustainability in their planting. Next, please. So when we started to involve also the government of Paraná, we had some steps to this process, and so we had a lot of presentations, a lot of meetings, and a lot of involving the administration of the government of Paraná to be involved in that. And also we are involving the people from, or the government from Mecklenburg-Vorpommern in Germany, which is also interested in support our project, and they are looking, because our company is located in Mecklenburg-Vorpommern, that we will get the support of being there like a constructor in Brazil. Next. So what is the problem in this territory? You can see here, we have in the region of Toledo more than 4 million pigs, and about more than 60 million poultry, and more than 26,000 milk cows, dairy cows. And so this is a basis to produce these 30,000 cubic meter of biomethane per hour. And so you can see this problem, which is caused by the production, will be reduced by our activities to use the biomethane for hydrogen production, and also reduce the uncontrolled methane emissions, which comes from the lagoons where the slurry and manure is stored. And these lagoons are open, and so you have the emissions of methane into the air. And this is a very bad situation for all the producers. Next, please. So here you can see what we are planning to make a concept of the producing of biogas. You can see here we have, as an example, our project in Toledo, and the name is Rocio. It's an area nearby the city of Toledo. And here are 50-60 producers directly connecting by pipelines to our biogas plants and are pumping their slurry directly to the biogas plant, so that we are avoiding the transportation of slurry and manure by trucks, and reducing also the CO2 emissions. Very good. And so this will be done in the whole territory more than 40 times. And so we have a network of pumping the residues, and a network, at least, of pumping then the biogas to a central area to produce our hydrogen. Next one. So this is an example of the plants which will be constructed by our company MELE. These are two plants, biomethane plants, which are located in Mecklenburg-Vorpommern, the city of Torgelow, and both plants are in operation. Next one. So this is also an example of what we are doing with the digestate from the biogas plants. There will be that will be treated and will be produced to pellets, which will be used as fertilizers in the farmland. Next one. Next one. Oh, so I think in this moment, these are my key figures to explain what we are, where we are collecting the substrates and the residues from the area. And so I think Felipe will continue with more detailed explication of what we are doing in the next steps. Thank you very much.
Perfect. Thank you, Helmut. So I will introduce Felipe. Dr. Felipe Andrés Toro Chacon will now continue the presentation. He has over 19 years of experience leading international teams, advising governments, industries in Brazil, Germany, and Europe, and well-known organizations as, for example, the World Bank, on topics like decarbonization and energy efficiency. As team leader of NIDAS, he currently advises the H2 Brazil project, which is part of the Brazil-Germany Cooperation for Sustainable Development, and is implemented by the GIZ and the Ministry of Mining and Energy. So please, Felipe, if you want, turn on your video and your microphone, and I will now start your presentation. One moment.
So Nora, thank you very much. I hope you can hear me good now.
Mm-hmm.
And you can also see my video. I want to say thank you very much for the Ministry of Economics and Climate Change in Germany and the H2Up program for this invitation today to present our results, and also to our colleagues at GIZ in Germany. Janka and her team, and also Joao and his team here in Brazil, and Isabella. So thank you very much also for the trust and for inviting us to present us here today. We have here the task, we got the task to do a pre-feasibility study, a FEL1 engineering design of a process for the project that Helmut just presented, and also for the in the framework of this PPP, public-private partnership. So we got here funds to develop this first very detailed study. I think I have to say very clearly here, the mandate was very clear for e-methanol and e-biofuel and e-syncrude, combining what Helmut presented on biogas, but I think including also the generation of hydrogen through electrolysis. So I think this is also part of the innovation here. Just 2 words about NIRAS. NIRAS is an international consulting team. It's based in Denmark and also in Germany for this project. And yeah, I would like to show that we have also real people working in very different areas, as it is shown here also what is our DNA from international consultings, but we have very well versed process industry experts, as also green fuel experts, as they participated in this project. But also you can see here the different areas of applications where we do cooperation with different partners worldwide. The next one, please. And this is just some numbers that you understand also our size together with NIRAS. So 62 offices in 34 countries, over 3,000 professionals, 400 are working in international consulting, and we also have 55,000 of external experts in our network, and we deliver around over 400 projects per year. Thank you very much. The next one. So the technical analysis presented in this study or studied here, it focuses on the feasibility assessment of green fuel production, specifically for the Western Paraná region. And it is based on what we are obtaining from MELE on the left side. He explained that. So we got this as an input, this biogas, this methane, and this CO2. And in the scope of this study, we had to work also with INERATEC on the renewable energy plant, on the let's say drafting and planning and electrolysis production and green hydrogen, and also to design various different processes in what I will call an e-fuel refinery here to produce either synthetic fuels. So I think the analysis involved then very specific process design comparisons, what will be between e-syncrude or sustainable aviation fuels, and also later in the process what we identify as a methanol route. And it was to do the process laid out definition and a very detailed and very high level simulation, as well as a first level economical evaluation. And the key technologies that were assessed were water electrolysis and biogas reforming reactors. And we also had to look at plant site locations, water utilization potentials, wind and solar energy explorations, and electrical grid connection capacities. Next one, please. So here the fundamental hypothesis or the starting point of this study is that methane and biogas and CO2 from the biogas are handled with separate technologies to maximize the syngas production, in particular syngas with higher carbon content, and efficiently handle the high CO2 content that is coming from the biogas feed. The less mature direct reforming reactors of biogas, for instance, they were not part of this study. These were not our mandate from GIZ and also from BMWK. They were focused mostly on mature technologies. Another hypothesis is that the maximization of CO2 usage, this is given due to its large content in the biogas feed stream. And also the process design phase aimed to compare the feasibility producing 2 different types of green fuels, syncrude, SAFI, and also methanol. SAFI is in Brazilian, so it's sustainable aviation fuel. And this phase has been aided by process modeling software implemented well-established kinetic models. We had a team. I didn't present it, but I will present it at the end. Got a team of professors from the Paraná region, and we also got two and the team of very well-versed experts in Denmark, experts in biogas, but also in green fuels and e-fuels and hydrogen. And we combined this international team here. For this part, there are also other experts that work on certification, like Inicio, or also other experts on environmental and legal permitting, or even animal welfare has also been part of this, but I couldn't extend my presentation to that. So the economic evaluation was also based on CapEx and OpEx, and this has been carried out producing simplified business case comparisons and methodologies well available at this level of chemical processes analysis and simulations. Next one, please. The next one is showing us, I'm going to show you two scenarios here, or two processes that have been here analyzed in detail. So the first one is what we call here process tree, is the production of e-syncrude or sustainable aviation fuels, and also going into a reverse water gas shift reactor. And what do you see here? Well, the first process configuration was let's say, as a base case to convert biogas into syncrude. This was our first mandate, and this was the basis for the further simulations from the technical team. And in this case, you can also see also the effluents being taken back or being also recycled. This process begins with a biogas upgrading section or with a water scrubber that separates CO2 and methane streams. The methane is also mixed with water and and sent this to the steam methane reformer. And the resultant syngas stream is blended with the CO2 from the biogas upgrading step. After adjusting the CO2 to the desired pressure and temperature conditions that are required here. Please just give me 1 second and I tell you when is the next one. In this case, I think what is also important is that green hydrogen, which is obtained here by renewable electricity from the site or by PPAs, both cases were analyzed, is also being produced by means of an electrolyzer, and this is also injected into the syngas cleaning and the reverse water gas shift. And with this, we inject what is coming as syngas into a Fischer-Tropsch and separators, also as it was shown also like in the case of Chile. And this refinery, it also then give us a resulting amount of kilograms or tons per hour, 21 tons per hour of syncrude, and the remaining parts are being recycled as wastewater coming from the Fischer-Tropsch or the syngas cleaning processes. And also being treated in the water plant for wastewater. And we also have a purge of 33 kilograms per hour of CO2 unreacted. Next one, please. While doing these discussions and analysis with MELE and also the client and also GIZ, we came also to the conclusion that there is an alternative pathways for biogas utilizations involving also the conversion to methanol. And this involves three processes as shown here: steam methane reforming, water gas shift, and methanol synthesis. And this method, well, features a high 91% recycle of unreacted components, as it is also shown here in the gray arrows. And we also have a purge of CO2, around 3,000 kilograms per hour of CO2. This is also still to be optimized and to be reduced in a detailed engineering step. But this is already, as you can see, the build-up and the planning of a complex refinery. This also, the process, as I was saying, it also then takes the biogas, it also mixes with methane, and it's when it comes to the syngas preparation step in the reactor there, it then takes into account the green hydrogen that is being produced at this stage. Due to time, I will then go to the next slide, please. Okay, So in the economic assessments, I will say, like in the other presentation from Chile, I also have to put here a disclaimer that we are finalizing the numbers for the economic assessments, but we have then do estimatives for this FEL engineering phase using different methods. One will be the 2-order magnitude estimate method, or could also be the comparison with other plans that have been published and produced in other plans worldwide. So we went and we check what will be then the capex, what will be the installation of modules, the engineering, the civil and the contingency plans here, and we come to the following numbers. In this case, all the scenarios are including also the capex from biogas, and one of the reasons was to choose the methanol with biogas due to this capex figure that we are seeing here, around $1,600 million, $1.6 billion. We also have a breakdown, so you get a picture what has been the cost for the different scenarios for the water treatment plant, for the renewable energy plants, for the electrolyzer plants, and also for the chemical process plants. And this has been also studied for the zinc route, e-zinc route, and also for the e-methanol routes in all cases. Next one, please. And then I want to show you in this slide also what has been the estimate, for instance, here of the total module cost for the methanol plant. We have several also discussions with different producers from Germany and worldwide for methanol plants, and we have come here to first estimates, which I think are very much acceptable at this stage, at this FEL 1 engineering level. This is not the most detailed, this is just the first pre-feasibility level. And if the client would like to have more detailed numbers, they know they will go to a more deeper analysis. But here there are uncertainties, of course, that's why these numbers are rounded, but we are talking for the module of methanol of around 390 million. We also then had discussions with MELE and also the different parts in Paraná around site cost and facility cost, and also estimations from other projects worldwide. And the team is now coming to these figures of 12 million for site cost and facility cost of around $23 million. And then with a total capital investment cost of around $425 million. In addition, together also with the other client, INERATEC, and also our experts of renewable energy in the team, they have come to estimate the capex from renewable energy plants and the electrolyzers of around $600 million. And if we also add then the biogas capex in this level, then we will come to a figure of 1.6 billion, sorry, 1,600 million US dollars. This all said give us, we also would like to reach the levelized cost of e-methanol and e-fuels, which we will then here tend to vary between $1,280 to $1,700 per ton, depending on the uncertainties taken here by the different capex. On the other hand, the OPEX, if we take the raw material costs, not taking into account the biogas, but the biogas capex is here taken into account, but then we take into account the biogas operational expenditures as well, then we land, these are the different positions. You can see our rounded numbers, they are coming to an extension of $252 million. And the next one, please. Yeah, here is just to give you the same comparison as the table. We also did that for the zinc route, e-zinc route, 1 and 2 scenarios, and e-methanol. And you can see the, let's say, the weights for the different aspects that are being considered there. The next one, please. Thank you very much. And then using the levelized cost as a method to compare what will be the aspects in the market. Yeah, we can see that electricity for compressors here and electrolyzers are also considered. Also a maintenance for 7% of the capex and the interest rate, as I was showing you. It gives us indicative prices. So for methanol, we will have an economic advantage that is clearly shown here because we are, let's say, coming closer to 1,280. However, these indicative price ranges for methanol in the market, 700 to 1,600, is mostly based on the current ethanol. If we are talking about current methanol, if we are going to talk about e-methanol in the future, or these figures could even be higher. Some other companies have talked over almost $3,000 per ton. However, these also have a lot of uncertainty, and these are figures that we do still not have a market yet created in the world for this commodity. So we rather took a more conservative approach, and then try to also estimate the financial and cash flows using these inputs by selling a methanol amount into the market. The next one, please. I think I'm going to be in the last two slides. So comparing both, I will say technical assessments, both process routes are technically feasible. I'm sure that's going to be a question. And also the derivation to sustainable aviation fuels is there, and therefore is important. I think the optimization of process design and heat integration is a necessary future step that we are also saying here. There is potential still to improve the CapEx and OpEx with very substantial numbers to be reduced here. The Syncrude route, however, displays a higher process complexity. It has a lower degree of flexibility when this is being designed, and this is one of the reasons also why our clients here are suggesting them to follow in a first instance the methanol route. However, we also advise, or the team of experts advise to include hydrocracking step and select a narrower carbon chain interval for both plant economics and product transportability. The methanol route at this case is showing a lower degree of complexity for the buildup and also a higher flexibility for future changes in strategy. And the economic assessments, well, both scenarios, methanol and Syncrude, could reach a levelized cost that could be in the range of possible estimated prices of synthetic fuels. However, the advantage is being shown by the methanol case, no? Methanol is the levelized cost is definitely more sensitive also to the electricity price, and then due to the relatively large green hydrogen amounts that are being fed into the process. And also the renewable energy plant size due to the large green hydrogen requirement has also a large impact on CapEx and OpEx. Next one, please. Okay, so conclusions and futures outlook. Sorry for the mistake there, the spelling mistake. I think, like I said, less complex technically has been chosen here for this, resulting in a diminished associated economic risk and higher flexibility. This could explain if we want to move faster into the markets. If the companies are pursuing these investments, then this will be the recommendation here. However, syngas production can be also maximized by this reshift approach. Also, what we have seen is that the PEM electrolysis is promising due to its flexibility when it's paired to renewable energy plants and interdependence from alkaline solutions, although it has a slightly higher specific cost, but the performance is similar to the alkaline technology. A performance contract is also recommended to ensure a sustained capacity factor. CapEx significantly impacts e-fuel levelized costs, as we have seen. And well, I think not only methanol has the production of methanol has optimization potentials, which could bring also the CapEx lower, but I think also the renewable energy plant and the electrolysis plant they need to get tailor-made solutions to optimize here this further. The same goes to the CO2 utilization that needs also further revision. And well, I think there are also other aspects that are not mentioned here, but CapEx and OpEx for methanol, they can also be improved by taking into account other products like fertilizers that can be produced here. They have not been quantified, or the oxygen that is coming out from the electrolysis can also be sold, and it could also have a contribution here. But definitely heat integration with the Fischer drops or even at the methanol level also offers potentials for improvements and to reduce cost, also the water handling and the use and improve productivity of the plant. And yeah, I think this is the first step. We are finalizing our financial analysis now, taking into account taxes and all that is required for financing. But I think this will be it. What is the next slide, please? Okay, I would like then to take the opportunity here to thank also Dr. Alessandro Cesci, a process engineer that is very engaged in our office in Denmark, but also to Professor Helton and Professor Corazza and Professor Romani, and also Thomas Vadum in Brazil and in Denmark. They have been really, really involved in producing a very high level detailed study here. And also thanks to Rodrigo Garcia for coordinating all this very challenging work. So thank you very much, and give the floor back to you, Nora.
Perfect. Thank you very much, Felipe. Great to see also this the study about the financial aspect of these projects. And thank you for the final recommendation. Super interesting. So we came to the end of all the presentations. We actually surpassed some minutes already the time that we planned, but maybe we can still see if there are 1 or 2 questions that we can still respond for now the last presentation, Helmut and Felipe, and then do the official goodbye. So I wasn't looking at the questions when I was presenting, but I would guess that the last questions are for you. There's one from Ralf Bobak, for example, who's asking, for example, about the world market price for methanol. It is about $400 to $500 US per ton. How would you bridge this gap?
Oh, well,
yeah.
I think we have other sources of information here. I will be happy to talk to him and that we exchange our sources, but this has been also discussed with MELE and INERATEC and also the teams of experts. So our estimates are much higher at the moment. Mm-hmm. But definitely, we'll be happy to, I think it's Ralph Bobak. We'll be happy. He has a lot of questions, so I think I will take them if you make them available to me, and then we can have a conversation to answer them. Very interesting.
Perfect. Okay, then we do it this way.
Yeah.
Better to
due to the time limitations.
Time. Yeah, and to respect maybe the time of everyone.
Thank you.
Okay, so all the questions that are still open, I would then get back to you, to the experts. Yes. So then maybe we will officially close. Thank you very much to those who were the speakers of today's. Thank you very much for your knowledge, for sharing these insights and your experience with us together. Also, thank you to everyone in the audience who stayed until the end and to learn about this interesting topic. I think we shed light on various facets of carbon-based PtX production today. So I think it was a very versatile webinar. And again, in the name of GIZ, Germany, of course, but also Brazil and Chile, who were collaborating in this webinar, in the name of them and in the name of the HK Uruguay. Thank you, and let's keep in touch, and I hope to see you soon again, maybe in person also someday. And of course, we cannot forget to thank also the program of H2Up, which is why we are here today. And also thank you to the BMW UK to make the program even possible. I cannot leave this webinar to mention this. So thank you, everyone, and I hope you have a great afternoon, day, whatever it is, wherever you are.
Thank you, Nora.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Thank you very much.
I will make the presentations available after the okay of the companies.
And the chats with the questions will be fantastic.
Yes,
Thank
I'm
you.
just copying them. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Nora. And thank you also for the other presenters.
Thank you, Felipe.
Bye.
Bye-bye.